So welcome to week 4. We're removing another window, ready to be cleaned, resealed and replaced back in the boat. This involves chiselling out some dowels in the wood to expose the nuts for the screws. The screws are on the outside of the window, the nuts are on the inside of the window, and also hold the wooden surround in place. So we're going to crack on with that. So wifey's on the inside chiselling off the wood. I'm on the outside undoing the screws, which is a riot. Really good fun when it's 30 odd degrees. Well, I better get on. We are inside the boat, except no, we're not. We're outside the boat. We managed to get another window out, and I'm just in the process of cleaning all this muck off the frame. Wifey is just setting up down there to clean the window itself. There she is. He is absolutely very hot and bothered. It's absolutely sweltering hot. But we are making progress today, so that's good news. So the window surround is now as clean as we can get it this evening. Note the abysmal filling. Now we've got far too much on this year to re-glass all of this. That's going to be a job for next year. And the window itself is up here with wifey, having our favourite butyl tape installed so that when we slam it back into position and put the screws back in, it will form a nice watertight seal. So we've stuck with it tonight. It's been a long old slog, particularly getting the window itself clean. There's a hell of a lot of muck on it, but we've scrubbed and sanded and washed and cleaned it off with acetone. So when that's in, I will show it to you. Oh, I say, hello. Don't normally do selfie stuff, but this I'm really pleased with. Here is the newly installed window, reinstalled window. There's newly installed wifey. She's staying here overnight.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Are you walking home then?
I'll get the train. Okay. I've got a ticket. Good Sunday so far. Anyway, we have repositioned the props, so we've got lots of support underneath, and I'm about to go inside and see how much support that gives us down here on the uncovered section of the sole, or of the hull rather. Might need to move those dudes back a little bit, but we will see. Splendiferous news. I've just repositioned the props. So there's one right under here, and that's taking all of my weight right now. Gap there. There's springy, but again that's taking all of my weight. So I'm now confident that we can rip this up and work in this area and not fall through the bottom of the boat. I mean, we're never going to fall through the bottom of the boat anyway. I'm perfectly aware that the forces that the hull would have been going through at cruising speed, 24 knots, would have been way in excess of my weight, or mine and wifey's weight combined. But this is a question of confidence, and it's a question of future safety and being able to do the work in here that we want to do without possibly warping the hull. So yeah, I'm really pleased. I'm going to crack on ripping the floor up. What have we here? Now, you may not be able to see this. I might have to do a bit of zooming and stuff because I'm just outside the cabin having a cigarette. Taking the rest of the floor up, the rest of the sole up, and we find 4 aluminium rods, square bars, embedded between 2 sheets. That cut off along there continues across, and the gap is bridged by 4 sections of aluminium bar, and there are almost innumerable holes drilled in the sole. Some have been resined up, some have rusty screws in them. Um, I genuinely cannot comprehend why you would do that. And the bars go right through the ply. It's absolutely incomprehensible to me. But anyway, we've got to rip them out, and we're making some progress. Hot and bothered wifey, poor hot and bothered itchy wifey, because we've been cutting through some fiberglass and dealing with some foam. But we do have a complete cross section open now, and I'm about, once I've had this cigarette break, to take this much out. All of that there, all of that there. The chocks underneath are doing their job really nicely. I'm going to come back tomorrow and prep a line midway across that section that's removed, ready to start fabricating and installing a new bulkhead to go. I've stopped calling them ribs because they're not ribs, they are bulkheads. Put a new one in along there, and then we'll be able to move the supports that are there to basically wherever we feel they're safest. For the next one, which will probably be just where that blue tape is, blue tissue even. So making good progress today. So after a day of, well, afternoon and early evening of slogging away, and we're both absolutely drenched in sweat and covered in grime and itchy and knackered, we've got a lot more of the floor up. So there's wifey having a well-earned break. Give us a wave. There we are. Lovely. So I have most of the day off tomorrow. I've got a dentist appointment at midday-ish. After that I will be here to put maybe two, definitely one at least, new bulkheads in. It's too late, but I would like to cut the remains of the dagger stringer off, so I can put a rib just this side of where that is, so that'll be about there. Once that is in, then I'll take the rest of that rotten deck up, but I'm going to leave it like this for tonight with the top hatch open, which is covered by the hard top for the helm. Just let some air through. It's not going to rain overnight, it's going to be a nice warm day tomorrow, so hopefully that will dry this out, and I'll sand probably all of that and then wash it down, clean it with acetone, make up some polyester resin putty, and get the new stuff in. But now we've got to bring in some tools and some wood, keep them safe. So that's it for today. Okay, well here we are. Hoping this audio's coming out. I've never recorded on my headset before. If not, I'll have to do some voiceover. But here we have the section that we removed on Sunday, and that's actually dried out beautifully. I'm really pleased with that. Now down this side, that's a little bit hard to say, but that looks pretty dry too. So that's wonderful news, actually. That means we should be able to go ahead and do some reasonable amounts of work in here. Okay, here we go. I'm all Tyvexed up and I'm misting up already. I'm going to crack on and do some sanding. Some filthy mucky business, so I'm going to be covered as much as I can, and I'll show you the results when I'm done. Yee. Okay folks, I've done a whole load of sanding, about a half hour of sanding. I've got some of this up, but in bringing it up I have uncovered yet more of a problem. You may see some liquid here. We follow the trail of the liquid up to this hole. We have through hull osmosis, folks, in several spots. Now, osmosis is A physical chemical process where water is drawn into voids in the layup, in the layers of glass, or maybe between the glass and the gel coat. 60s and 70s GRP boats are particularly vulnerable to it. I knew there was a lot under the hull. I must admit I didn't quite expect it to come all the way through. These were just two conspicuous bumps which I thought were just bad layup, and of course they were bad layup, and the bad layup has led to the osmosis. So what I'm going to need to do is, I've still got my Tyvek on luckily, so I can sort of lean on stuff. I've got a nice convenient sharp thing here, but this is, all of this is going to have to be, oh, there you go. See that? That's a lot of gush. Fuck me. That's bad, baby. And I'm pressing quite a ways back. And that is still coming through. See, I'm all the way over here, it's still bubbling up. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first International Maritime Perverts Festival. Here is wifey wearing her my gorgeous Tyvek suit. We are going to continue the osmosis treatment. There's not been any further run-outs of liquid from our two little vampire bites, but there is sanding and grinding to be done, and wifey has a lovely little gooseneck sander, or what's it called?
Good question. Power belt fine.
A power belt file, which is wonderful. You are, from this point on, only allowed to see me as a silhouette or shadow. This is the thing in question. It is Silverline, because we ain't millionaires, and we certainly never will be owning this boat. So wifey's going to be doing that. I'm going to be mopping out the engine compartment and setting up a battery charger, because our batteries are flat. I probably left something turned on that I shouldn't have done. But we will crack on. So wifey, as always, exceeds every expectation. The sanding out has begun, down to the point where there ain't no more crunching, and the glass appears to be dry. So she's done an absolutely wonderful job there. She's just starting on the second one, and it's basically poke it with something sharp, and if it oozes or crunches, take it back a little bit further. That's nowhere near as deep or as wide as I thought it was going to end up being. Where are we? Wednesday evening, coming on for 7 o'clock, so it's knocking off time. Battery charger is installed and is charging battery number, well, the port engine battery. There's a problem with the electrics on the starboard engine battery, which I will spend some time tomorrow evening diagnosing. But wifey has done yet more sanding and checking and poking and sniffing about. The blister the thing that I thought was a blister turned out it was just a big blob of resin. The two weepy bits have been completely cleaned out to good glass, so that's wonderful. And this section, which we believe is where the stringer used to be, there's a similar ridge on the other side. Should be able to see the lines of both of them there, equidistant from the centre line. That seems to be a little bit more ropey, so we're going to carry on stripping that back to good glass over the next few days. But the position doesn't seem to be as bad as I thought it was last night, which is wonderful news, because wifey has done her usual job of just grabbing hold of something and getting on with it and doing a wonderful job, and she looks very satisfied with her evening's work as she packs away a wonderful machine.
Fibreglass has dust all over my face. It itches.
Oh dear, yeah, I have to say your goggles have left quite a red mark on the bridge of your schnozzle.
Yeah.
Wah.
Oh well, never mind.
Oh dear. So we're going to finish unplugging stuff and tidying up, and not that one.
That's the vacuum.
Yeah, because we're going to have to leave that plugged in. I don't know how long that's going to take to charge.
Okay.
But I'm assured by the AA that battery charger is safe to leave unattended.
Well,
On their head be it.
exactly.
Right. Okay, well you go and get out of your Beastie Boys costume. I will bring that other sander in and check around to see if there's anything else that needs to come in. I did do a bit of cleaning up around here and sanded over where that Fairline logo was, so that looks a bit better. Started cleaning this bit up. That's going to need a lot of work. Awful piece of work, and we have a similar effort on this side but not quite as bad. And I did a little bit of clean up just on this face round here, and just took that back a bit to see what the quality of the gel coat was like. It's all going to get cleaned and repainted anyway. As far as getting access to the fuel tank, these are what are basically holding this section to this section. All of this and this, the floor of the cockpit, all come out, and you can see down here where somebody's very kindly painted with magnolia house paint. There's screws all the way down there, and there are screws all the way along the bottom of the cockpit there. So they all come out, and the whole of this section here that I am currently standing on will come out, and we'll be able to gain access to the tank. But while I was poking around in the engine compartment, I noticed there's a very thick wooden bulkhead which is in surprisingly good condition. The bottom 2/3 of it have been glassed in, but the wood itself is as solid as a rock, and you tap it and it sounds good. There's no give in it, there's no shift in it. So I will investigate further when we get rid of these last vestiges of sole down here, and we know we're going to have to replace this entire bulkhead, and the outside will be glassed, fiberglassed, and the inside will be veneered by Wifey with another one of her areas of expertise. Yet another one of her areas of expertise. And by the time all that is done, the bottom of the boat should be prepared. And from some other research that we've done online, that bulkhead isn't massively structural. It rests on the sole down the bottom there, just behind the workbench. So we will be able to whip that out, I believe, which is fabulous. And yes, we will progress step by step, solve problem after problem, and eventually the problem will be, where are we going to take the boat today? Which will be a wonderful day, and will involve champagne and tears and laughter and all of the attendant drama of human existence. So here we go. There's a lovely constructive end to Wednesday as we approach the weekend. And at the weekend we are also going to need to get rid of all this stuff, get all this junk dumped that has come out of the cabin. I need to say hello to Ian at this point, who came round and said hello to us with Frankie and two friends of theirs who own a boat that's just up the yard. Wifey's coming out with some rubbish. So that's the end of today's work, and I'm going to edit some of this together and hopefully post it online a little bit later. So toodaloo, say toodaloo, darling. So here's where we're grinding today. I'm going to take it back, bevel it to the edge of the black outline that I've just roughly drawn in, and lay some glass up, make it nice and smooth and flat and strong. I reckon I want to put 3, 4, 5 layers in to fill the void, and then a nice big patch across, and then start on the other side and fill those 2 blisters in. But I'm going to concentrate on this one for the moment, just because I think I want to have a bit of a sense of achievement, which would be nice. Got all sorts of action going on in the boatyard today. We've got boats being moved about and coming and going and being washed and all manner of stuff. But this new layup is now curing. No tack, which is nice. And I'm going to give it another 20 minutes, half an hour, just to see how it settles in. The osmosis holes aren't setting up quite as quickly, but I didn't put as much accelerant in those, so that's fine. But the layup looks good, but they all need knocking back to the edge so that we get towards a flat surface, and then I will be mixing up some colloidal silica to fill that in and make good, and the same on those when they're set up. So I'm going to sit and relax for a minute and listen to some more cricket. So here we are, mid layup. I put too much accelerant in the first one, and the sun came in and it warmed up and it set rock solid quite quickly, so I made another batch. There's 4 layers on the blisters, 5 layers on the stringer line, and they're both going to need, once they've set up properly, they're going to need knocking back and filling. So I'm going to take a break, have a drink of water, and see what's going on in cricket and take it from there. But it is getting very warm in here, which I'm quite glad about, because that means this will set up quite well, quite quickly. And I'm pretty pleased with how that looks, in fact. I'm sure there'll be people going, oh, you put too much glass on there. But that's so you can get the edges just so. And yes, I have desperately over applied glass there, but again, that's going to be sanded back and filled and faired. So yeah, there we go. Dust everywhere. Okay, this is now cleaned up and ready to fill. Those are half cleaned up and they'll be ready to fill by the time I finish this one. Not quite cured, they weren't quite cured, so I couldn't sand them all the way back. But that is looking pretty reasonable. Rather pleased with that. It's absolutely sweltering hot. I'm covered in glass dust and I am starting to get itchy. But I'm just going to keep going. And hopefully the sweat will push the glass out of my skin, my pores. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But good progress. Keep going. Okay, folks, lots to catch up with today. We have removed the wood trim that was between the body of the cockpit walls and the cockpit floor, and this is what we've found. So that's going to need to be squared up. I've got a rough idea how we're going to do that, but it is quite thick glass. So I think I might puzzle piece it. I might make new panel edges separately and puzzle piece them in. That's going to be interesting. And same on this side, but that's got quite large gouges. But that is fixable, I feel quite sure. Darling wifey is scrubbing away. So we've removed more of the sole, almost up to the midships bulkhead, and we've started sanding, but the belt sander that I got from a certain well-known high street DIY shop was absolutely awful, and the belt disintegrated and got very tangled and broke, so that'll be going back to the shop tomorrow. But we do have this new one that we're going to start using tomorrow to get rid of the residue of the foam and to have a nice clean glass surface that we can put a couple of layers of mat down on. And then we are going to put these in. We have several of these lovely long straight beautifully dry pieces of wood, and they're going to be the new stringers. And the wood that Wifey is sitting on is going to be cleaned and trimmed and shaped to go in as bulkheads. So we have made lots of progress. I'm awfully sorry that I haven't videoed more, but to be brutally honest, a lot of it has been very, very tedious. Sanding and scrubbing and cutting and lifting and more scrubbing and more sanding. That's about it for today, but today's Saturday and we will be back tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be in a position where we can start doing some slightly more constructive things of putting stuff in the boat rather than taking stuff out of the boat. Right, here we are, the end of the weekend's work, and there's still wood lying around, but we're now clear under all this wood from the midships bulkhead that supports the fly bridge all the way back to this bulkhead. We've removed the so-called depth sensor, which it transpires was simply a block of wood. Unbelievably, but it literally is just a shaped block of wood that was bolted onto the bottom with some wires sticking into it. I kid you not. Absolutely incredible. But over the course of the week we will get this into that condition and a little bit further into the gel coat, and then 2 layers of chop sheet mat and resin, and then stringers and bulkheads. These are going to get cut into bulkheads to the correct profile. There'll be a bulkhead as close to there as is reasonable, so that we have something solid to step on while we're working, and also to support the ceiling when we take the front bulkhead out, which is still a ways away, but we will get there. Also there'll be one close to the midships bulkhead so that we can support the fly bridge when that bulkhead comes out. It's not terribly damaged, but the wood underneath was a lot wetter than I thought it was going to be. So we are going to go all the way back, replacing the floor as we go once we've done this section. Now Wifey has done some absolutely incredible work today. I will just jump down from the boat and you get to see my anti-glass safety precautions. Now this is hard and miserable work, but she's done really well. Getting the anti-foul back down to the gel coat and slightly grinding back the blisters. There'll be a lot more to do than that. Oh, thank you, darling. This is what is left of the through hull sensor, and it is literally just a block of wood with some anti-foul on it, which is incredible. That absolutely blows my mind. So I'm going to put this as a marker for where our rubbish pile will go when it builds up again, because again Wifey came to the rescue and got rid of all the junk that we'd accumulated. And not only that, she started wire brushing the legs, which now look much better. I've taken the cones off, so I want to get this one off as soon as possible because it is really rotten and actually quite dangerous to work around with these rather sharp and lumpy edges. So there's some oil soaking into those. So we didn't get done everything that we wanted to get done, but we have got a lot done anyway. And our Wifey's having a rest. Ooh-ees. So tonight we'll be editing the last week and a half, 2 weeks together, and posting it up on PooTube. Well, it's oh, hold on. Well, it's a truly beautiful evening here at the boatyard. The temperatures are very mild. It's about 19-20 degrees. There's a beautiful breeze coming through the boat. I've done a lot of sanding and glassing today. We've done this section of the upper hull, the inside of the hull, a few bits of osmosis which were ground out and tidied up, and I've just glassed them in with about 9 or 10 layers of glass, so they're now beautifully flat, and they can be sanded in tomorrow once they've set up properly. Really pleased with it. But that's that little section there, which is about I'm going to say a 1/9 or maybe even a 1/10 of the area that we've got to do. That was 4.5 hours of sanding. I'm seriously considering buying an electric planer. Bosch do a good one with a nice range of adjustable depths up to 3 mil. The thickness of the gel coat is pretty consistent. It's about a 1.5 mil, between 1 and 1.5 mil, and I'd be perfectly happy to go all over at 1 mil and take it all up and then sand the last 0.5 mil. Before I did the glassing, obviously I had to clean up the dust. I'm trying to see if there's a spot that I didn't clean up. Unfortunately I cleaned up too well, but the amount of dust was quite incredible. And you have to be clean when you're putting glass down, or the osmosis will return. But very pleased with the result of today's work. It's setting up nicely. In the end I only needed 0.5% catalyst, and it's gone in absolutely beautifully. This is probably the deepest one. It's not quite pulling focus on that, so I'll just have to pull back a little bit more. But that's gone on absolutely beautifully. Really very pleased with that. And the edges of it will be knocked back as I sand this section off. Same with this section. There's glass around the edges that hasn't been resined in. That was a fairly deep one. That was quite juicy, that one, when it popped. As was that one. But I'm very pleased with that. That's not dry glass, by the way. That's all absolutely fine. Really very pleased with it. The battery charger has done its job beautifully. I just step out to the messy cockpit and I turn the power on. We now have, unless something terrible has happened, our cabin lights are working again. Not entirely sure that means that we're ready to stay here overnight, but if the worst came to the worst, we have some sort of power, which means I can work longer than just daylight hours, which, as we approach the middle of August, evening light does become a consideration. But I need to now clean up and get my stuff in from the cockpit and lock it all safely away in here and go home, because I need to go to work tomorrow. So I hope you're all very well and having a lovely time.